There are a lot of untold realities that perhaps I feel a lot of black people have not been able to speak up about. Part of this can be due to fear or overall judgment. The black population in specific parts of the Western world is critically under frequent attacks of hatred, to which the attackers can deny and manipulate the system by accusing the victim, being the black people, of being the criminal, by racial prejudice and stereotypes that have been inflicted in the corporation system and in the media. And furthermore, there is a concern that lies within black communities as to what will happen to their status, their homes, their role, and even their jobs in these white societies, should they be caught speaking up against the discrimination which still exists. It is a very evident and apparent situation that, truth be told, has not changed, contrary to what anybody has told you or tricked themselves into thinking. As a matter of fact, it has gotten a lot worse. The evidence has shown us that prior to the movements that black people took to be seen as equal in the white societies, black people were actually better off socially, financially, and economically, capable of running self-sufficient societies, stores, and even property, to which once the American system utilized the blindness of the black community to who were seeking white status, they have been able to cleverly indoctrinate a sense of white Americanism into everything that is black, and have definitely done a job when it comes to weaponizing those industries that perhaps black people have represented well by using some of these black leaders and convincing them that unless they are seen with white people or white economies, or seen on the white media, far away from any black media which has existed, but once again has been overtaken by the white societies, it has been very evident that sadly we live in a reality where the world has done its absolute best to completely ruin, or perhaps even strip the black cause away from the American society. And if you are genuinely working within these white related fields, and you have not seen an initiative to let them more or less just bring a sense of change to the way that they treat you with even an ounce of respect, if you find yourself still having to compromise by code switching in an effort to perhaps help your situation, this is a further emphasis as to how the system has actually failed to accommodate for anything and anyone who is not white, and it is simply because they are incapable. They cannot understand the level of suffering and perhaps violence that perhaps they have been responsible for indoctrinating within the societies to direct towards the black people. And the reality of the situation is, any statistics where you may see a black person smiling on a campaign does not accommodate for the reality of the situation, being that there are still thousands, hundreds of thousands, and perhaps millions of black people who remain in these societies, and they are still very much stuck in these situations, and where they are amongst the low income structure, in which their children are racially bullied out of their schools. You are not doing the black community service by taking one or a few black people and placing them in positions where they can change, when the remaining black masses still remain stuck within the stereotypes in which the system has created, and the lack of contribution from people who perhaps have the initiative to grow and to further develop within their own black cause has only remained stationary. And the levels of attack have only further increased and increased, to which there has been no recorded evidence as to how anybody can justify a system that likes to brush off the mistreatment of black people like it is a piece of dust, when it is a blatant worldwide, or should I say a global, or at least a westernized issue which still persists. And the only way that the truth can ever come out, I would say, is if black people start resisting, or should I even say refusing to compromise to the levels of abuse that the levels of Americanism have indoctrinated within the people. And whether the people are aware of it or not, the black masses need to adopt a philosophy where they will refuse to rest, and they will refuse to actually comply with a system and a law that deteriorates our community and completely continues to harm the rest of the people who rely on these black families and these black students to achieve adequate education in schools and optimal living environments without actually facing a level of aggression or fear from anybody who is anti-black. And if the system has done such a good job at bringing justice for people who are anti-white, who refuse the white way of living, how the black people have not figured out a way to work together and figure out a coping way to accommodate for these situations in which the American corporal system refuses to perhaps develop the necessary programs or the safety and the protection of the remaining black masses as they are held up to the law. The black masses can no longer live under the law because the law was never created, at least within the Western world, to accommodate for black people. It is only until the black people have their own philosophies to actually defend their homes, their selves, by any moral way possible to prevent a racist infiltrator from disrupting the harmony that exists within the black culture, and perhaps even the peace which has been established within many of the traditions in which black people have been indoctrinated with. But for as long as the white system is giving you a sense of white identity, you have to understand that you still remain subject to a higher power, due to the fact that you are incapable of drawing your own power unless I mentioned again that you work together and figure out a black law, a law in which black people can morally live by and develop the necessary responses and procedures to alleviate some of these racial barriers and this aggression, which can be denied or mistold or miscalculated, but it is very, very apparent, and it's something that cannot be hidden. It is something that these people are incapable of actually learning how to move past those racial barriers, because they have not learned anything in relation to how black people have been through so much and can still remain in positions where their strength, their courage and intelligence has been very capable of outperforming the remaining masses who have been trying to indoctrinate the black community with fear and with aggression. And this is the mentality or the way of life in which black people should live.